Good day, and welcome to the Trinity Biotech fourth quarter and fiscal year 2016 financial results conference call. All participants will be in listen-only mode. Should you need assistance, please signal a conference specialist by pressing the star key followed by 0. After today's presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. To ask a question, you may press star then 1 on your telephone keypad. To withdraw your question, please press star then 2. Please note this event is being recorded. I would now like to turn the conference over to Joe Diaz of Lytham Partners. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Allison, and thank all of you for joining us today to review the financial results of Trinity Biotech for the fourth quarter and year-end 2016, which ended December 31, 2016. With us on the call representing the company are Ronan O'Caoimh, Chief Executive Officer, and Kevin Tansley, Chief Financial Officer. At the conclusion of today's prepared remarks, we will open the call for a question-and-answer session. Before we begin with prepared remarks, we submit for the record the following statement. Statements made by the management team of Trinity Biotech during the course of this conference call that are not historical facts are considered to be forward-looking statements subject to risks and uncertainties. The Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995 provides a safe harbor for such forward-looking statements. The words believe, expect, anticipate, estimate, will, and other similar statements of expectation identify forward-looking statements. Investors are cautioned that such forward-looking statements involve risks and uncertainties, including, but not limited to, the results of research and development efforts, the effect of regulation by the United States Food and Drug Administration and other agencies, the impact of competitive products, product development, commercialization, and technological difficulties, and other risks detailed in the company's periodic reports filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Forward-looking statements reflect management's analysis only as of today. The company undertakes no obligation to publicly release the results of any revision to these forward-looking statements. With that, let me turn the call over to Kevin Tansley, Chief Financial Officer, for a review of the results. After Kevin's remarks, we will hear from Ronan O'Caoimh and his perspectives on the quarter and the fiscal year. Kevin?
Thanks very much, Joe. Today I'll take you through the results for quarter 4 and then the results for the full year 2016. Before going into the details of the income statement, I will point out that there is a significant once-off charge this quarter, which I will deal with at the end of the income statement segment, and that the metrics I quote in the meantime are excluding the impact of this item. I will now start on an outline of the results for the quarter, and then I'll move on to the results for the year as a whole afterwards. Beginning with our revenues. Total revenues for the quarter were $23.7 million, and this compares to $4.9 million in quarter 4 2015. As we have mentioned in the earnings release, this is driven by lower HIV revenues due to the fluctuating nature of such sales, partly offset by some growth in clinical laboratory revenues. Ronan will provide more details on the revenues for the quarter and the year as a whole later in the call, so I'll move on now and discuss the other aspects of the income statement. The gross margin for the quarter was 40% and compares to 43.2% last year. In fact, this is a lower margin than we have shown for some time, and there are a number of factors which have contributed to this. Firstly, we are seeing the impact of exchange rate movements. This includes the comparative weakness of the Brazilian real, Canadian dollar, and post-Brexit sterling against the US dollar, but it also includes the impact the strong dollar has had on our pricing in countries where we sell in US dollars. Secondly, the sales mix has been adverse, particularly due to the lower level of point-of-care sales, which, as you're aware, tend to have higher profit margins. And thirdly, production levels in our plants were lower in the quarter. This is partially reflective of the lower revenues, but was also impacted by culling a number of products during the quarter. Moving on to our indirect costs. Our R&D expenses for the quarter at $1.3 million were slightly lower than the $1.5 million in last year's quarter. Meanwhile, our SG&A expenses have increased this quarter from $6 million to $7.2 million. This is less a case of the 2016 number being high, but rather the